The Home Secretary has said that her heartfelt thoughts are with those who are involved. Your reaction, first of all, this morning?
No surprise. We can be shocked. We hear that 3 people have died and we've no idea what that number might climb to. If it's an active search and rescue mission now, the fear is the number could be quite a lot higher. But we can't be surprised. I've seen those boats at first hand, both at sea and on land. They're made for one trip only. The plywood bottoms are literally glued in, and they can deflate very, very easily. So we don't yet know whether it was a collision, a deflation, but we can't be surprised. The real surprise is we haven't had a major incident like this since November of last year. So obviously, on a human level, it is absolutely horrid. This issue, which has been going very much to the top of British politics, I just wonder when we reflect on the loss of life, perhaps that should make us even more determined to stop these crossings from happening. And you add to this story what we learnt late last night, that 70 children have gone missing from hotels in Hove, in Sussex. 70 under-18s that have come into the country have gone missing, and one shudders to think where some of those children have been taken to. So I think there is actually a moral imperative to stop these crossings.
There is this. It's a terrible, tragic irony, and I mean that in the true sense of the word. That this comes a day after Rishi Sunak set out his plan yesterday. Let's just go back to yesterday. What were your thoughts on his ambitions? Because from where I was sitting, we already have a lot of these particular methods, do we not, to stop the crossing? So was it just a lot of words yesterday?
Do you know what Rishi Sunak said? You can just wind the clock back to Boris Johnson saying that. You can wind it back even further to David Cameron saying, if you come here illegally, you won't be allowed to stay, and that's what the public want to hear, and that's what the Conservative supporting newspapers want to hear. In terms of substance, well, much of it was hopeless, there'll be no more hotels. We're going to put you in Butlins instead. Well, big deal. We're going to put officers at Tirana Airport in Albania. Well, but they're coming across the channel in boats. That's not going to help. The big news was, he did say that there would be deportations back to Albania because it's a safe country, and that would happen very quickly. Well, that's all well and good, but the problem is this. We have the Modern Slavery Act of 2015. So you've come from Albania, you claim to have been trafficked, even though you probably haven't. But you've got a legal problem there. You've got the Human Rights Act of 1998, which incorporates the European Convention on Human Rights into UK law. I do not believe we have any chance of stopping this unless we change the legislation that is there on the statute books. And thus far, Priti Patel, Suella Braverman, they occasionally hint at this. But until they do that, this isn't going to change. And we're going to finish up this year, by the end of this year, perhaps towards 50,000 people that have crossed. And next year, the numbers could be higher. Why
won't they do that, Nigel Farage?
I'll tell you why.
If you don't know the answer to that, nobody does.
No, I do.
Nobody understands this better than you.
I do, absolutely. It's the same reason they never wanted to leave the European Union. The Conservative Party did not want to leave the European Union. They had to be kicked into it. If they leave the ECHR, there'll be condemnation from everybody that we're like 1930s Germany, we're a wicked, evil, dreadful country. If we attempt to redefine the 1951 UN definition of what a refugee is, and remember that was for a world in which a refugee was seen as somebody who might be killed because of who they were, what their religion was, their race was. They want to be popular on the international stage. Now, there is one way of solving this, and the Aussies did it in 2012. Tony Abbott as Prime Minister, they tried offshore processing, they tried all these things that we're talking about. In the end, you know what they did? They took the boats, they towed them back to Indonesia, they were condemned by the European Union, condemned by the United Nations. The whole world said how beastly Australia was. But you know what happened? No more boats came.
Absolutely right.
No more boats came. So we're going to have to do something in changing our law, in acting, that is going to make us unpopular for a period of time amongst the president of France won't like it, etc. But that's the only way we're going to solve this.
Do you think these tragic events today, we don't know, latest reports are saying that perhaps there are 43 people who have been rescued alive but are in hospital at the moment. As you say, that death count may rise. Yeah. Let's hope not. Does this change that conversation today, Suella Braverman?
Well,
does this now give her permission, is what I'm saying, in a sense, to change the rhetoric and to say we have to make this a less appealing option to people?
Yes, and we're going to get Prime Minister's questions today, of course, and this will be the main part of PM. I mean, it was going to be a big part of PMQs anyway after the PM statement yesterday. Yeah. Look, Suella can say what she likes. Rishi Sunak can say what he likes. I repeat the point. Unless we get to grips with legislation that is on our statute book, which is being used by lawyers through the courts to prevent deportations, unless we grasp that nettle, this won't stop.